Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Be Different here, and this is going to be my very first podcast. I hope you guys enjoy. It's an interview with Justin RP. Here we go.
Fuck 'em. I didn't want to go to heaven anyway.
So, welcome to the Be Different podcast. I'm your host, Caleb, and this is my very first participant in all this kind of ordeal that I'm going to try to be putting together every week. His name is Justin Phillips. He has his own kind of podcast, and we're going to see what he does.
He has his own kind of podcast.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, basically.
Hi, Caleb.
Hello.
Caleb, I'm very excited. Caleb, you were on my podcast once, but that's a dead podcast. So it doesn't. Well, it still
Unfortunately.
exists, but it still exists everywhere. They can find the videos and stuff like that. But yeah, that is what I do. Is I podcast. I have one of my own podcasts, 2, 3 of my own podcasts, if you count all the ones I don't do anymore. And then I have clients' podcasts as well. So I basically talk a lot.
Yeah, you do.
But not in real life.
Just a little bit. But yeah, no, like he was saying, I was on his podcast a couple times. We talked about anything from Area 51 when the entire whole ordeal was going on with people storming Area 51.
Remember when that was our biggest issue?
Yeah.
People storming. And our issues have changed in the world quite a bit since then.
Just a tad bit. So, Justin, how about you start us off with telling us who you exactly are?
Yeah, I exactly am the world's most perfect human being, as I was just getting right before the podcast. Oh, okay. I'm a person. I'm 21. I'm a college student. I'm a financial planning major, but that has almost nothing to do with what I actually do. I just got done saying, I produce podcasts. That's basically what I do for a living now, either as a producer for clients, obviously, like across the country. I just produce their podcast for them. I also do podcast launches for people where I work with them one-on-one to start their podcast, because I get a lot of people showing me interest, but they're like, I don't know if I have the funding, to commit to a full-time producer. Yeah. So I started this little program where I'm just like, okay, give me a one-time payment and we will get you started, and I'll show you everything that you need to know how to do to run your own podcast. So I do that now, but I just work with people all over the world. I have this weird tendency to end up working with like ex-Army Rangers doing leadership podcasts.
That sounds interesting.
That's kind of my niche by no design whatsoever, no intention of me getting into it, but it's just kind of one led to the other. And if you want to check out any of those podcasts or anything like that, go to like justinrp.com or something.
Yeah, and I'll definitely be linking it down below so that everybody can be able to find
and
it.
Just ask me directly. Like, don't be afraid of me. I'm not famous to the point, despite being the world's most perfect human being, I'm not famous to the point that like my inbox is completely full and I won't see it. Like, I'll see it and most likely not ignore it.
Unless if it's me, then you're just going to ignore it all the time.
Then I'll ignore it.
Yeah. I have my own special folder on his email where it just goes straight there and deletes.
This kid spells his name weird. I'm not going to talk to him.
Unfortunately. So what made you exactly want to start a podcast? I mean, I understand like talking to people isn't really your niche, but like going about like online talking, that's where I was like it's a little different. I've never it's weird to see as much. So how exactly did you get there?
It is interesting. I'm a pretty shy person by nature. Like, you and I actually met because we used to work together in real life. And yeah, I think from there, I mean, I wasn't the shyest kid at that point per se, but I also wasn't the person to go around talking to everybody either.
You were like me, singing and dancing around in our areas. So, I mean.
Yeah, or like, complaining about pallet jacks 24/7. So, but there was this part of me, because when I started doing podcasts, people were like, you don't talk. And I'm like, I know, it's weird, right? Basically, it came out of pretty much no good place, but it came out of me being in college, and I wasn't working during the semester, and I still don't throughout college. Well, I do my podcast work now, which is pretty much like 24/7, but I was basically in college, and I was like, I'm going to do what every college kid does and Google how to make money on the internet, because I want to be able to eat a lot of food and be financially irresponsible.
Absolutely.
As a financial planning major in college. So long story short, I got into affiliate marketing. I got into like building sales funnels. I got into internet marketing, and I learned a lot of good stuff along the way. But basically I ended up in this course where part of the course was like teach you how to start an online business, and part of it was like, hey, this is going to really help you with an online business. Make a ton of content. Here's what we actually want you to do. We want you to go ahead and I just realized this is going on YouTube, so I don't know if I just got you in any sort of trouble.
Oh no, it's definitely gonna have a squeaker toy over top of it. So.
Yeah, so it was like make a lot of content, and so their suggestions were like blog every day for a year, live stream every day for a year, or podcast every day for a year. So I was like, I don't want to write. I kind of wanted to write, but I felt like it was between podcasting and blogging. So I was not comfortable on camera at this point. And I was like, and especially live streaming, I was like, I'm not going to do that. So basically I was like, I kind of want to blog. I feel like podcasting is essentially just more efficient blogging.
Yeah, just a little bit.
So I was like, it was really, do I want to type the words or do I want to say the words? And I decided to say the words. So that's how I started my podcast. That's how I started JRP Daily, with the whole notion of like, I'm going to do this every single day for an entire year. It was mostly just a commitment thing. And it eventually turned into a point where I realized the best way for me to take it would be to try to use that time to actually develop the skills that are involved in podcast production and promotion and stuff like that, rather than just try to like growth hack the podcast and find ways to drive a ton of traffic to it and get 1 million downloads a month. And
that's the main idea for it though.
But
you got to build that following.
I don't like these people. My biggest problem, especially in the podcasting space, is you get a lot of people that get ranked like 68th best podcast in self-improvement like a day, and then you never hear about them again. But then you go to their Instagram bio and it's like top rated podcast on Apple. I'm like, shut up. You're not a top-rated podcast.
Yeah, no, that's definitely too much right there.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
and so I just made that not my thing either, because I also, back at this time, I was doing a lot of like the Instagram growth hacking type of thing.
Yeah.
And I actually started finally picking up traction with that right when I gave up on it, naturally. So I was getting I had like one of those infographic pages where I just made like little doodles on Canva basically and put them on Instagram, or little quotes and stuff, and got this page built up, which it's actually still the same page. I totally wiped it out, got rid of every post at some point, and just turned it into my personal page with all these followers that don't actually care about me. But I got it up to like a little bit over 3,000 followers, and now it's been steadily dropping ever since then, because what I realized was that the followers weren't doing me good, like whatsoever. Yeah. Like I put a lot of time into trying to make those posts and trying to grow this Instagram. And then once I had a couple thousand followers, I was like, I'm still in no better situation than I was when I was just.
Yeah. Cause they're not really organic. They're more just there.
Exactly.
They're like a stale follower.
They weren't monetized. Like that was ultimately the goal, right? Like make money, start a business, do that kind of thing. So eventually I just changed my focus with the podcast. I was like, how can I turn this into something that puts dollars in my bank account instead of followers on my Instagram account? And then, so I started editing video. That was where I actually got my start making money doing this type of stuff. I would get these like micro influencers on Instagram, so to speak, to pay me like $20 for a 1-minute video, and it wasn't really even editing too much. It was just like, they'd send me a video and I would put subtitles and like a little red progress bar going across the bottom of it.
I mean, that's still pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and you're still bringing in income, which most people can't do anymore. So
yeah, exactly. And then that was when that switch flipped for me in my head. Like I spend hours a day making my own content for Instagram, and all I get out of that is like random people from other countries that don't know who I am, like liking and following, probably just because they want to follow me back. Or I work with this guy and he pays me to make that content. So like I went where the money was. Most podcasts that I work with are usually far more successful than my own podcast, just because I put so much more attention into those ones than I do into my own, because that's, at least from my own experience, that's what I've discovered you've got to do if you really want to start making some sort of sustainable income, because the first guy that started paying me, just $20 here and there to make little Instagram videos for him, his business has grown now to a point where he's got a podcast, and he came to me when he started that because he knew I was doing, podcast every day for a year. And basically, so he came to me, he was like, hey, do you want to produce this for me? I was like, sure. And now, he pays me like a decent income to come and just produce his podcast for him.
Gotcha.
And then the other cool thing about that is that every time I get a new client, like my salary, so to speak, doubles almost every time he
Yeah.
comes back. Once you go from one client to two, it's like, wow, my income just doubled. And the first time you make like a bunch of money in a short period of time, you do have like this great awakening within yourself. You're just like, holy yeah. You're just like, holy yeah, like this could actually happen. Like that happened to me very recently, like 2 weeks ago. I had 2 sales calls for that podcast launch program I was talking about. And it's priced around $1,000 per person. It depends on the situation and stuff
crazy.
like that. But basically I had these 2 sales calls back to back, half-hour calls. I closed both of them, so I made like $1,500 in an hour. And I was like, whoa, what did I just do?
Yeah, no, that's ridiculous.
And
that's a crazy amount.
Like I can't live off that forever, but it starts getting those gears turning. Like this is actually possible. Like I can make money. So that's pretty cool.
I mean, I've been telling you that since you started. Like when I went on the podcast originally, I'm like, hey, you should really like turn this into a profit. I mean, like, because you do good. Like you have a whole professional setup going on. Like you have your microphone that you're using right now that's probably connected to your cool condenser and everything like everything that's going on like that you have through this production. It actually is professional type. Like, so it doesn't surprise me now that you're going through with it. And I'm glad that you're going through with it because it got you out of a situation at the place that we worked at together that wasn't always the greatest.
Thou shalt not be named.
I don't want to give them any kind of support going on right now. But I mean, like they didn't really treat their employees to the best of capabilities. And it obviously shows for anybody that's gone there and has left. Like I left, you have left. I know a lot of other people have left because of the way people were being treated. So, I mean, for you now to be doing something that you enjoy and making money off of it is definitely something that's like, it makes me happy to like see someone that's going through a success story of what they want to do. So
yeah, it's fascinating too, and it is so fun. Like you hear all that stuff on the internet now about like, oh, how it's about the journey, but like, it just really is, and it's so much fun to me, And I actually work with so many people right now that are getting themselves into similar situations as me. We're basically, I don't know why, this is like the hero cycle of becoming successful, we'll call it. Is have a job, find something that you enjoy doing that pays literally half of what your job pays you, and then do that thing. Yeah. Because what I've been getting paid to produce podcasts for this one client for the past so many months is roughly half what I was making working a normal job. But the thing is, going back to what I just said too, is like the growth potential for that is so high that it could just be doubled at any moment, tripled at any moment even, that it's so cool. And it's so cool to think to myself too, now, like I'm in control of whether or not I get a raise basically. And it can be a massive raise in certain cases too. It's not like an extra 50 cents an hour that I had to be in a certain position 6 months in order to get a raise of 50 cents an hour. It's something like, oh, I just went from making $500 a month to $1,000 a month. I went from making 1,000 to 2,000, and then eventually 2,000 turns into 10,000, and it just keeps going.
And I mean, it's all essentially profit too, seeing that you're all doing it based out of, I'm assuming, like your house. So I mean, like, there's not much. You already bought. You're all set up. You're already doing like all you're doing is just taking your time into it. So they're ultimately everything you're making is just great profit.
The biggest expense I've got right now is software and employees.
Well, ultimately,
I do have a team at this point, which that's super cool too, by the way. That's like the coolest part of all of this for me, is actually getting to work with people to help these clients make their content even better, and getting to pay people is such a privilege. Like something I learned, or they teach you in business schools, like, the highest expense for any business is their employees. And people talk about how companies go out and they pay their employees like shit because they don't want the expense, or they do this, that, and the other. But I was listening to a popular business podcast I listened to offer the other day, and he mentioned this point that like he wakes up he owns a massive company. He wakes up every day hoping to give his employees a raise. And that really resonated with me, because I feel the same way with my team. Like I want to pay them a lot of money. Obviously I need the money in order to do that. But it's like, if I can stretch to whatever point, I will never be the type of person that's making, like umpteen $1 million a month while my team is making $7.25 an hour,
And that's always
or
a good
something
thing to
like that.
focus on. I mean,
Yeah.
because if you work for a boss that's just stingy with his money, then ultimately you as an employee are just going to eventually phase out or not want
Yeah.
to be there. So, I
It's
mean,
so much healthier as a business too, right? Because like that's the point of having the team in the first place, is that they're going to actually put effort into doing a good job and
yeah.
delivering on their results and doing that kind of thing. And so like pay them for what they're worth. Like that's
You
all you
mean you
got to
don't want to
do.
pay them like $2 an hour?
Yeah, and then wonder why they like goof off all the time and never
Yeah.
actually get anywhere with their job. Like I don't understand why that's just such a hard thing for some people to understand. It's like, oh, why do the
Yeah.
low-level employees in fast food chains not try? Because they're not getting paid to try.
No, you're being paid
It's
like
just a
$8 an
job for
hour.
them.
Why would you want to do anything
They're
if you're
they're
being paid?
seeing how much money is going through the cash register every day. They know that there are the resources there. So I don't
Yeah.
know, but to me, it is about like that's a big part of my why, so to speak. It's just like I want to be able to help other people do things that they enjoy doing for a living. So I've grabbed one of my friends that's really into music. I've grabbed one of my friends that's really into design, and now we all channel that in one direction into helping people start their podcast or YouTube channels for their business. And it's just starting to take off now, but we'll look back on this interview in 12 years and
See where
that'll
we're
be the
all at.
really cool moment or really scary moment, depending on how
Yeah,
things
maybe.
go.
Maybe like someday you'll become like some billionaire podcast mogul, and I'll be sitting here like, wow, I interviewed him for nothing. This man
Yeah.
I didn't pay him. He didn't pay me. We're just doing this off of nothing. But I mean,
Exactly.
it's still always cool to see like what goes on behind the scenes and what goes towards building a business. Because
Yeah.
like you were saying, like the whole business scheme, like if like with fast food, they're seeing that money coming through all the time, and you're only paying
Yeah.
them $8 an hour. I used to work in fast food. Like
Hmm.
I know how it feels like see hundreds upon hundreds of dollars coming in, and you're only being paid $8 an hour along with 12 other employees.
Yeah.
Why aren't you getting a raise? Like why isn't anything going on?
Yeah.
But I
Especially
mean,
when you get into like really major corporations and they have all these weird particular rules about giving out raises and stuff
yeah,
like that.
like
Like
yearly.
yeah, exactly. And it's just like, or like the thing I was mentioning earlier, like you have to be 6 months into this position before you're eligible to be promoted to another position. It's like, I want to try to not do things like that, 'cause it just doesn't make sense to me, because you can get some new guy that's going to come in and be a lot more useful to the company on day
Absolutely.
one than certain people that have really just been creating fires for you to put out for the past 6 years or whatever it
Yeah.
is. So those types of things don't make sense to me. So I'm glad to be in a position where I can see myself eventually like providing that for people, being like, hey, if you come in and all of a sudden, the company's revenue increases by like $10,000 a month, like I'm gonna pay you because
Yeah.
I want that to keep happening.
But yeah, no, like, cause that's kind of how I felt like when I left the last place we were at. Like, I took a decent pay cut, like going from the position I was at to where I'm
Mhm.
at now. Like, I moved up and progressed through the company within a month and a half of being there to a point now where I'm almost double what I was making at the previous
Wow.
job. So I mean, like right now, I'm a lot more stable with my funds coming in. I have a lot more time. Like I was telling you earlier, like I was driving an hour and a half to go to work
Yeah.
for what like it's
Yeah.
essentially like after all my pay was
Gas
done.
money.
Yeah, that's essentially after all my pay was gone, like that's what it ended up being. A majority of my money and my time throughout the year was being spent on the road.
Yeah.
So when I took this position, I was like, okay, I know I'm going to be taking a pay cut, so I mean, let's see how it goes. And then to see the bosses recognize like an employee's like stature and like how he presents himself throughout the day and how he
Mhm.
works hard, and they actually like provide for you when it comes to that, like it was nice to see in a nice position
Yeah.
for me to be in right now. So I mean, I know exactly what you're saying when it comes to wanting to give the employees more if your revenue is going through the roof.
Yeah. And one of the interesting things too that I want to bring up that you just touched on too is like people need to start realizing how valuable their time can be too. Like if you're commuting that
Yeah.
far to a job that pays double whatever's near you, and I'm not talking about the gas specifically, which is a whole other expense to consider, but like just the
Yeah.
time, that's why people get so scared to actually put their money into some things sometimes too, is because they don't want to pay someone to do something. But I can tell you right now, like especially with my designer right now for what I do, like if I was spending all this time trying to figure out Photoshop or Canva or whatever software you have out there and make these podcast covers for people that are starting their podcasts, when I could be spending that time either really mastering the production process of the podcast or
Yeah.
finding new clients, it is so much more worth it for me to
No,
just
absolutely.
pay someone to do that thing, because first of all, he does it so much better than I could ever do it. And, like I said, it's like if I pay him $100 to make an image, but I use that time to find a client that's going to pay us $1,000 to start their podcast,
Yeah.
it's worth it.
I mean, it's risk and reward. Like you find something
Yeah.
like if you're doing it all yourself, yeah, your profits can be going up ultimately, but like you're going to be making less in the long run because you're not reaching out to as many clients because you're trying to handle all that workload at once for yourself, which isn't a fun time. So
there are a lot of delicate balances to be had in there, but just actually, my advice to people would be to actually think about everything that you do if you're trying to start a side hustle or anything, or a business or whatever it is. Actually think about everything that you spend your time doing and being like, why do I do this? And what could I be doing with that time if I weren't doing this, basically?
Yeah.
Because it is about like, try to focus on what you're good at, or try to focus on what actually brings you the most return, and then get the rest out to other people and share the wealth, because
definitely.
That's going to create the wealth.
Well, it's like one hand washes the other. Like you give someone else good money, eventually if they end up doing something better, they're going to help you out more. Like it's always there for you. So, I mean, definitely think of that process for business. So, right now we have this huge pandemic going on with good old COVID-19.
Yes.
What is your thoughts on what's going on with this? Because, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the news and the media stating how this is a fake flu or this is a very deadly flu.
Is that a thing?
I mean, I've seen a lot of things going on.
Not
I mean,
fake.
all these deaths coming out. Like, so like PA, for instance, just took 200 deaths off that death toll because they weren't from COVID. Like, what exactly is your thought process on this? Like, is this real?
That's something that's been pissing me off lately. I mean, obviously, I think the virus is real. I'm not a wild conspiracy.
But is it as extreme as you would like as they're making it out to be? Is what I'm saying.
Absolutely not. First of all, let me kind of like start this by saying I don't have cable, and I've actually deleted Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of that off my phone at this point too. So I don't have it on there anymore because I try to just not get my head filled with I still check it. I still like check Facebook on my laptop and stuff. I'm not some sort of like super heroic non-social media. Like, oh, I'm taking a break from social media for like, I'm not one of those people.
Like Ed Sheeran did for a year.
Yeah, I did get it off of my phone so that I'm not like consistently just sitting there with like dopamine parties going on inside my brain. And so I don't really know what's going on in a lot of cases with politics, or obviously I know what's going on with coronavirus to some extent, because if you don't by now, then that'd be an interesting life to be living. But yeah, dude, I think I am still and always was of the idea that it's been just way blown out of proportion by the mass media. Even though now, it's like a month in and people are a little bit over a month in at this point, almost 2 months now, actually. Yeah, Jesus. But that people are still saying like, I don't know. I think it's just all a mental game at this point, and people need to just chill out, basically.
Definitely.
Like, I'm definitely tired of talking about it. And the biggest thing that I've been thinking about it lately is that like we need to not use this as a reason to argue with each other more than we already do.
Definitely not.
That's what most people are doing. They're because what's going to happen is that people are going to start coming out and they're going to, everybody that enforced all this lockdown procedure stuff is going to act like they're heroes for doing so, when we genuinely have no idea if the lockdown had any effect. There's no way for us to know, because like you just said, like there are no real numbers with
it's like it's making it sound like it's an all imaginary game, because it literally, like I said, like the 200 deaths being tacked off, how many other states have had 500 to 600
had someone
deaths?
Text me today. I mean, we live in Pennsylvania. I'm sure people are well aware of that. But like someone like messaged me today that works on a lot more closer level with like the hospitals and stuff, talking about this right now. Like that someone just died of a heart attack and it got chalked up to being coronavirus because he tested positive for it.
I was reading in the news about one of those things.
Definitely a heart attack. So it's like, I don't know. To me, it's kind of a question of where does it end and like what are we actually gonna do about it? And we need to stop using it as a reason to fight each other too. That's my biggest problem with it is like the whole like Donald Trump disinfectant argument going on right now.
I haven't
Like
even looked into that one. I don't even want to see it.
I haven't either. My dad was like talking to me the other day. He was like, "What do you think you meant by that?" I'm like, "Dad, I didn't watch it. I'm not going to watch it because
Yeah, no, definitely not.
everybody that's paying attention to that is watching it for the sole purpose of trying to tell someone else that they're wrong about something."
Exactly.
And that's the problem. So
or like try to down talk Trump or try to up to like it's always gonna be an ongoing battle for years. It's been that way for the last 4 years in his like it's never gonna end with the media essentially. Like people don't understand how much like pull the media has in what's being stated. Like the flu alone, like the regular flu, like you're coughing and sneezing has killed more people than this COVID has. And we don't shut down the world for the flu. So like that's where it's like, what exactly is going on in this world to make
there's
people
definitely
freak
something
out?
here that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that kill a lot of people on a daily basis. I mean, like imagine if we took the numbers of how many people could die in car accidents every year and we're all of a sudden like, oh, we should shut down all of the roads for the rest of forever.
Yeah.
Like what? Like go out, take a risk. But I've also I heard something else interesting the other day too, but I'm starting to hear a lot more stories about like older people, while being the most at risk for this as far as we know, are also, you know, they're in that mentality right now where they're starting to get really itchy, where they're starting to realize like, you know what, I only have so many days left on this planet either way. I'm not going to live them in fucking lockdown. There I go again. I'm not going to live them in lockdown.
Lots of squeaky toys. Lots of squeaky toys.
but they're saying stuff like that. You know, they're starting to realize stuff like that too. I think right now we're finally getting to the point where we're realizing we're taking our own lives away more than the viruses at this point, and we're just going to have to, at some point or another, be like where is the tipping point? If you've ever read The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, this is a perfect like embodiment of that. It's like there's going to be a point where it just spills over and we're going to be like, yay, we're normal again. That's the bottom line.
What exactly is normal? I mean, like the way this is going on, I don't even know what normal is anymore. Like
that's true.
It's completely changed my perception on what's going on. Like how quickly these states react to. I was off for 2 weeks. Luckily, I was still able to get paid, but still, like for a company like a warehouse to shut down for 2 weeks, that's a lot of money that you're losing out on for every business that's going on right now.
Yeah.
Like especially like all the other bigger places that like now we have Amazon protesting. Like that's a major distribution center that's their employees just don't want to be there anymore because precautions and like what's going on. Like so I'm like I don't know exactly what normal is to me, at least, anymore.
Nobody knows what's going on at this point, and sometimes I wonder if it's really like knocked us so far away from normal that we're like, whoa, is there a new normal coming? I don't think there is. I think it's kind of shown a light on some things that were already happening and like expose them, be like, oh yeah, this is how your life actually works. Like this is where your food actually comes from. This is where your dog toys are actually made at. Like stuff like that. Like
it's not little leprechauns stocking shelves at night.
Like, you know, all that stuff on CNN about manufacturing that you don't understand. This is why that's important. like
the toilet paper shortage of 2020 happening. Like
is that still going on? I don't actually know.
No, but, I mean, I've seen a lot of toilet paper going on, but that's just my area. So, I mean, it could still be affecting.
But I don't know. I think we do go back to normal eventually. I do see those people on the internet saying like, oh, we're never going to have normal again because now we've realized that more people can work from home and we've realized this and we've realized that. I think it's going to it's definitely going to gradually fade away.
Oh, like God, yeah.
Like
definitely.
after restrictions are lifted, you know, people are still going to be pretty cautious for a while. Some people are still going to like wear masks to baseball games and do weird things.
If we ever have baseball games again.
Yeah, ever. But that's what I'm saying. It's like people are like, oh, I'm going to be extra cautious for the rest of my life or something like that. It's like, no, you're not. After you're the weird one in like 5 years after everyone else has gone back to actual normal, you're going to go back to normal too.
Yeah, that's eventually it's going to happen.
Eventually we're going to get used to it. And the whole idea of like, it's going to be a new normal just happens. Like new normal isn't going to happen because of the coronavirus. Like if coronavirus never happened, we're not allowed to say that on YouTube either, are we? So we're lots of squeaky toys.
Lots of squeaky toys.
But if the illness like had never happened, then yeah, normal 5 years from now would still be normal from today. That's just how it works.
Yeah,
So
like nothing would have changed. Like
I guess that's my 2 cents on it.
I mean, like I definitely think it's going to expand like with schooling because now we've seen like all these schools that stated how like these online classes weren't possible due to they didn't have like the resources and everything like that. We're definitely going to end up expanding because now we've seen with like at the college that's nearby us that I went to, we had sports and recreational management. I got told when I was trying to switch over to online that they don't have an online because they don't have the resources or the abilities to do so. But now we've seen with Zoom, with all these other like things, we can more than happily do anything they really want to put their mind to. And I'm sure that's definitely going to bring some changes coming up like with colleges, with high schools, with everything like that. So
yeah, I don't know if that's going to bring as many changes just because I feel like students really, really do enjoy being in person still for school, myself included. Myself included. I left. I was going to online school for a semester for way, 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 way cheap. And then I went back to physical location just because I liked it so much more. I was like, I'll pay tens of thousands of dollars to go back to physical school. So I just did not like the online thing. And then friggin' God has a sense of humor because then he made half my semester with the high tuition rates online anyway. So I was just like, oh, well, this sucks. But what I do think it's going to do is it's going to shine a light on. I can see college students starting to look at now, like, what are we actually paying for? You know, like, where is all of this money actually going? Like, you've got all these kids that paid for room and board and paid for meal plans and paid for stuff. And it's not that they didn't realize they pay for that, but they didn't realize how much they pay for that because it's all this money that they're not getting back all of a sudden that they're realizing is their tuition dollars or their room and board or whatever it might be, and that these colleges are just kind of sitting on that money.
Yeah, and then you hear about colleges in the news all the time saying like, "Oh, we don't have any money, like we're running out of funding." And it's like, wait a minute, like I'm paying you X amount of thousands of dollars to stay in a like 8x8 dorm room for what? Like, like these little tiny pods that I'm paying so much money to stay in, and you're running out of money. Like
people are also starting to see that the college degree doesn't make you invincible through this crisis too, right? Not. Like people with college degrees are losing their jobs now.
That's the thing. It
left
seems like
and right.
It seems like more people with college degrees lost their jobs than
like
people that didn't have degrees.
So, yeah, I mean, so I think that any kind of aware of what's going on around them college student right now should be looking at the world and being like, why am I getting my degree instead of just learning a skill and doing that for people that is still prevalent no matter what goes on in the world, because those are the people that have jobs right now.
The essential workers have jobs. You get labeled as, you have a label now. So, I mean, all those people that were like, that went for psychology and stuff like that, like they don't really have jobs right now because nobody can go to a psychiatrist. Nobody can go anywhere. The people that have chiropractic, like you can't go to see a chiropractor. So I mean, what are all these people really doing now? Because physical touch is what matters. Like
exactly.
And they still have bills to pay. They still have all this stuff going on that they still need to provide. So
it's also kind of like a stab in the back for people that get a college degree as a plan B, because now they need a plan B to their college degree. They're like, wait, I thought my college degree was the backup plan. And now that's working. So,
I mean, I don't see this personally. I don't see this happening again in our lifetime, at least. I mean, if it does, it might happen towards like our 70s and 80s area. Like, I don't foresee, like, I think we'll be pretty well prepared if it happens.
I mean, we'll definitely go through economic crises and stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. But
this was just so far fetched. I mean, it was global, which definitely made it kind of stand out among the rest of them,
I mean, I like my gas prices being low, but
except I'm not going anywhere.
I am, but
I'm not. But it's just like, I'm happy that I started commuting to school this semester, so I didn't pay room and board and then not get it back. But no, so what was I just saying?
Talking about like not getting money back and like why you're happy that you're staying home and everything like that.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't remember the actual point I was trying to get to, but the economic crisis in our lifetime, like we'll see crises happen again, but I don't know if it'll be I don't know if anything will happen again as weird as this one.
No.
Like it's just like, are we gonna shut the world down again? Probably not. I think we are at the point now where most of the people that were involved, most of the people in power that were moving along with this lockdown are starting to realize like, wow, this didn't work exactly the way that we thought it was going to. And I'm mostly scared just for like the freedom aspect, like bringing it into America specifically after I just got
Yeah.
done saying this was global. But I don't, I'm worried about how people kind of fail to see the ways that people in power will go about taking your freedom away from you.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty conscious about the fact that for one, not going to let this like take any freedoms, any rights or anything that I know that I ought to have away and what actually made America America, because that's the things that are kind of happening right now. Like an example of that is like these phasing systems. They're coming out with these phasing systems for reopening your state
Yeah.
or
Yep.
the country as a whole and stuff too. It's like, and that looks like a good idea right now because it's giving people some sort of hope, and it's giving people like, oh yay, we're starting to reopen. But what I don't like about the phasing, like in Pennsylvania, we're doing like a red, yellow, green system where it's like red is locked down, yellow
Yep.
is you can kind of do stuff, and green is like, okay, just listen to the CDC. But
And we're still in the yellow.
what I don't like about that is that the governor can just throw us into any phase he wants at any time he wants. Like it gives them a tool to use after we get back into the green. It gives them a tool to use just to be like, oh, we're going back into yellow because we saw more stuff, and just take that right away from you again.
Yeah.
Like that's not freedom, So I get scared that these phasing systems and stuff like that to like reopen the country can all be spun to look good, but at the same time, it might not be good when they start just using it in the other direction and being like, oh, we're going into this phase.
Yeah.
Like, so don't go to the gym tomorrow.
Buy lots of home gyms. Buy lots of home gyms from certain companies
This
that.
entire thing was just aroused by the home gym industry.
I
That's what's
mean,
really happening.
where I work, we sell home equipment, and we got told the other day that our sales went up 40 something percent for home equipment, and it provided us to enough to where we can still fund our employees and being able to still pay us. So I mean, if you guys want to buy some more home equipment, like some
Yeah.
barbells and some treadmills, I mean, I'm gonna appreciate you. Like I will definitely appreciate you. I'll send you a virtual high five. I mean,
Yes.
can't really touch physically yet, but
Yeah.
I'll definitely send you a
The
virtual
thought
high five.
counts.
No, absolutely. But I mean, if you got anything else to say, I mean, you want to give a little sign off and tell them where to follow you. I'll link everything down below. I'll have you send it over to me, and we'll get you hopefully some organic followers.
Yeah, dude. I really appreciate you having me on this. I like feeling cool by being asked to be on things. Um, the first and foremost place I would like to send people actually would be to my podcast, which is now called Operation JRP. And be careful because I'll probably change it in a month because that's just what I do. I can't
Probably.
make up my mind. But right now it's called Operation JRP. The links will stay the same as far as I know. So whatever Caleb links will be that. But go over to that, leave a review on it on Apple, do all that type of stuff. And as far as Instagram is _JustinRP. Facebook, I think, actually, don't worry about Facebook. Twitter is _JustinRP. I think Facebook is the same thing. Basically, look up _JustinRP or JustinRP on things. Like my YouTube channel is JustinRP, and you'll be able to find it. JustinRP.com has everything, all the rest of the socials listed there. So if
Gotcha.
if you have like 2 IQ points, you should be able to find me on the internet.
But I'll definitely have them all linked down below. I'll have you send me over the physical links, and we'll throw them on down there.
And make sure you like hit the like button on Caleb's stuff and subscribe
absolutely.
and leave reviews and do all that type of stuff too. Because Caleb's a pretty cool kid. I mean, I'd rate him at least a 6. So
a 6. Oh, all right. So I guess those links aren't going down below, but we can at least keep some parts of this video up there. But yeah, I'll definitely link everything down there so everyone can go find him. Justin, thank you for coming out. I really appreciate it. I mean, it's a fun time.
I'll be Ento.
Hey guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that podcast interview with Justin RP. And make sure you guys check down below for his links to his website and to his Twitter and to his Instagram. Make sure you guys give it a big thumbs up and a big like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.